Let me start with the truth most people simply don't want to hear. Most relationships don't fail to convert because someone is bad at selling. They fail because no one leads the moment. And if you're someone who's thoughtful, relational, values trust, you've probably felt this tension before. You have great conversations. People open up to you. There's clearly an opportunity there. And then the moment passes, not because you pushed too hard, but because you didn't guide it anywhere. Today, I want to walk you through a simple playbook for turning friendly conversations into intentional outcome-driven ones without killing the vibe, without triggering the sales radar, and without becoming someone you're not. This is all about self-led leadership, not pressure. Independence isn't just about where you go. It's about how well you live when you get there. That's why I am genuinely excited about Indie Stove, because it completely changes what outdoor and off-grid cooking looks like. Indie Stove is an ultra portable, collapsible stove that fits basically anywhere, but performs like a real kitchen tool. It heats up in minutes, holds up in wind, rain, and rugged terrain, and works with multiple fuel sources, propane, butane, or wood pellets. So you're never limited by where you are and what's available. But here's where it gets fun. This isn't just about boiling water. With Indie Stove's modular accessories, you can actually cook. The workspace stack gives you sturdy side sleeves, so your cookware, ingredients, and tools are right there when you need them most. No balancing acts, no chaos. The skewer stack lets you grill kebabs, vegetables, or skewered meals evenly with non-sag skewers designed for real heat control. And yes, people are baking chocolate chip cookies off the grid. Fresh cookies in the middle of nowhere. That is not survival, that's luxury. Indie Stove is built for people who want freedom without giving up quality. Real meals, real control, real independence. Whether you're camping, overlanding, prepping for emergencies, or just choosing a life that isn't tied to outlets and crowded kitchens. And because you're a Revenue Rascals listener, you get something extra. Use code Revenue Rascals at checkout and you'll receive a free workspace stack with your purchase of a stove, valued at $120. That's Revenue Rascals at indiestove.com. Because independence should taste incredible. All right, so last week I talked about a group of people who feel like they're capable of more, not because they're ambitious, but because they can see more. Today I want to talk about what happens when the ability goes unnamed for too long. Most high performers don't burn out because they're working too hard. They burn out because they're mispositioned. They're solving problems that they didn't create. They're executing decisions they didn't make, and they're being measured on outputs while quietly carrying responsibility for outcomes. And that creates a very specific kind of frustration. You start to feel restless, even when things are quote unquote working. You get bored in roles that you once loved. You notice yourself saying things like, I could fix this if I actually had the authority. But instead of naming the real issue, most people do one of these three things. They try to push more, add something else, or convince themselves they just need to work harder. That is not growth. That's avoidance. Because the truth is, the problem isn't effort, it's altitude. And if you're constantly translating strategy for other people, if you're the one connecting dots no one else sees, if leadership looks to you when revenue is at risk, you're already operating at a level most roles don't know how to price. So you end up getting stuck in this strange middle ground. Where are you a coach, a consultant, coach, consultant? What are you doing? Helping, mentoring, advisoring? I mean, there's been so many different words for it. And here's the part that stings the most. The market isn't ignoring you. It just doesn't know what to call you. When a role doesn't have language, it doesn't have leverage. And when you don't have leverage, you start shrinking your thinking to fit the seat that you're in right now. That's the real cost of staying unnamed. Not lost income, although that happens. It is truly lost influence. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to talk about how this role actually works and why people who step into it stop chasing opportunities and they start coming to them. So make sure that you're following this show because you will not want to miss my special episode on February 17th where I reveal it all. If this feels uncomfortably accurate, good. That means you're paying attention. It's time for Rascal Ramp, unfiltered truth, straight talk, no fluff. A question that has come up with so many of my coaching clients, especially when you have a new offer, you're scaling something, or if you simply just want to leverage your network, is how do you take these friendly conversations, these semi-warm, quote unquote, leads and turn them into sales opportunities? And the thing is they're not always direct sales opportunity. They could be referral partners. They could introduce you to the right person, right? That would be fantastic. Or they could become clients of your own or just advocates in general. So understanding where to take the conversation and how to take the conversation without being salesy and not yourself, that's what we're going to talk about today. So here's the reframe that changes everything. Friendly creates access, but intentional creates opportunity. Most high integrity people stall here because they don't want to feel transactional or pushy or that they're using relationships. So instead, they stay vague and they stay open-ended. They wait for the other person to connect the dots. But this is the deal. This isn't going to work. This will produce zero outcome. And actually, it causes a lot of friction in the relationship that you wouldn't even realize is there. But this is the deal, is that you can change this by guiding clarity. And clarity is actually the most respectful thing that you can offer someone. The goal of these conversations is not to just simply pitch them something. The goal is to create direction for the conversation and the relationship. That is a huge difference. Welcome to Why This Works and Why It Doesn't. Real strategies, real results, no sugarcoating. I can't tell you how many times people have reached out to me to ask this question. So much so that I'm like, I'm creating a playbook and I'm going to put it on the podcast. This happens so often. And, it can happen even outside of your deep, meaningful relationships you have in your life. You could have met a buddy at a conference and you don't know how to change it from a buddy to an opportunity. Or you could be at the grocery store in line having a fantastic conversation with somebody, realizing it's a great match either for a referral or a direct client, but you don't know how to turn the conversation. And this is the thing. I'm going to offer some language around this. I'm going to offer you some guidance. But the thing that I want you to remember is that you can memorize anything I put on this podcast. You can memorize anything that I write in all of my free resources, that you can go to revenuerascals.com and get everything for free in one portal. But the thing is you have to learn how to say it so that it sounds like you, so that you can feel it in your belly, so that it feels comfortable. And the only way to do that is to get out there and actually start practicing. It might not go that well the first couple of times, but the thing is it's just like trying to get a six pack. The more sit-ups you do and the more consistent you are, the better your abs are going to look like. So I want you to take that perspective and just understand it's going to take a little bit of grit, some risk. You're going to have to be okay with a little bit of rejection, awkwardness. But on the other side of this is you're going to unlock your ability to communicate in such a more effective and powerful way that you're never going to want to go back. All right. So this is step one in turning those friendly conversations into opportunities. Okay. So step one is to open the conversation without triggering what I would call the sales radar. The second you start sounding like, hey, I don't care about you and I'm just going to try to sell you something, is when you're going to lose this opportunity. So let's not do that. Okay, friends? The biggest mistake people make is when they do this is that they lead with their offer instead of context. So I want to give you an example about this. Okay. Let's say, for example, I met somebody in the grocery store who is building a business. You know what they're there doing? They're buying snacks because they're going to pop up a table, in front of the schools after school and try to sell. I'm just going to make this up as we go, an after school program. Okay. So you have somebody in the line, they're promoting their after school program. They're going to stand and show everybody after school, we're talking about it. So if I was to say, let's just make up his name. His name is Fred. If I was just to say, hey, Fred, that's what I do. I create revenue engines. Can I help you? Would you like to pay me money? Super awkward, guys. That's not going to work, right? So you need to lead with context. And context helps you take the conversation to the next level. So for example, while we're waiting in line, I could simply say, oh my gosh, my kids love those snacks. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of people to come and talk to you. Out of curiosity, how are you going to get the parents to find out that the kids want to do this? Context, right? Because I know that when you're trying to sell something to adults for their children, the adult needs to be involved. So here's my question to push back. So that's exactly how you start to peel back the layers to have these really powerful conversations. And for the record, I completely made all of that up on the fly in my head. And I did that on purpose. That was not planned at all. And the reason I'm doing this is that I want to show to everyone listening that you can do this too once you get used to it and you start to work those muscles. I am just like you. I have to learn the way to do things. I have to study. I have to role play and I have to execute. So what most people do is they're choosing to open up their conversation based on the relationship and not the outcome that they want. So for example, I could have completely screwed up that last example by asking him oh, what made you want to start the business? Or just trying to be friendly. I went directly to, he's here buying snacks. He's about to promote. He needs the parents to know that's the outcome that he wants. And that is how you change these friendly conversations. And you can still build beautiful relationships with people without having to sell things to them. He could simply say he already had a plan. Maybe he doesn't even need me, but I am peeling back that onion one layer at a time by using acknowledge, validate, peel and the communication methods that I always teach. If you make it about them and you don't worry about yourself, you always end up finding the information that you need. Okay. So I want to give you some other tips here too on step one. So there's different lanes that you can be in to open up this conversation. So I'm going to give you some other ways to approach the conversation. One is observation based, which I would call a shared reality. So for example, I've been noticing a pattern with X lately. Curious if you're seeing that too. What a great example. So if you're a marketer, for example here, you can say, I've been noticing that ads costs are going up significantly. Curious, is that happening for you too? Okay, there we go. Now we can have a conversation. The next one is curiosity first. So essentially you disappear and it becomes all about the other person, right? Question for them. What's been the hardest growth decision you've had to make this year? Super powerful. Now, the other way that you can approach this is through what I call the third party lens. And that's where you can stay safe and depersonalize the situation. So here's an example. I've had a few conversations lately where this kept coming up. Give the example. Does that match what you're seeing out there? So let's put this into real actionable items here. So I've had a few conversations with a bunch of women this week that are all still struggling to lose weight, even after they fix their hormones. Does that match what you're seeing too? And the reason I gave that example is, let's say you help women in perimenopause and menopause lose weight. Here's a great transition. People talk to each other all the time, and you're going to know this. Now, one quick reminder here, if you go to revenuerascals.com and you sign up for my free resource vault, everything I'm talking about right now and sharing with you, I put in the free resource guide section, and you can go and download it and use it at your leisure. You only have to sign up for the resource vault once, and then everything is updated there every single week for you. So go jump in there and make your life a lot easier, friends. Okay, so the next one we have is reflection-based for warm relationships. And this is a really powerful one. So last time we talked, you mentioned X. Has that shifted at all? So let's give some examples here. So last time we talked, you mentioned that you were really struggling delegating. Has that shifted at all for you yet? Okay, now if you're a leadership coach or you help people with their leadership development or strategies around that, you've opened up the beautiful conversation. And if you've been hanging out around Revenue Rascals and Michelle Derpster for a long time, you know that my famous quote that I will hold true for my whole life is that conversations end with a period, they continue with a question mark. So you'll notice that if I want more information, I'm not making statements, I'm asking questions. And that is the curiosity that is so critical to a great communicator, influencer, and salesperson. All right, so the next one is what I would refer to as future oriented. That is inviting and it's not invasive. Here we go. If the next 6 months go really well, what actually changes? Super powerful. So for example, let's say you are helping somebody grow the reach and the usage of their product. So let's say it's a SaaS platform using product-led growth, and you are an expert at this. You know what product needs to do in order for it to lead growth. So for example, in the next 6 months, what are you tracking to make this successful? Is it new users? Is it retention? Is it upsells? Insert whatever it is that you want to talk about. Really, really, really important. That is future oriented. It gets people thinking about what they want in the future so that you can plug yourself in. Permission based, high trust. Okay. Now, this one is like when you just know, you know, and you're just going to go for it, but you want to create it from a high trust area. So here we go. Mind if I put my work brain on for a minute? And that all that means is, hey, we're having this great conversation. I have some things I'd like to add to it. I am likely going to talk about my services. I want to get your permission to do that first. You will rarely ever find anyone to push back on any of these scenarios. And these ways that we can approach these conversations are super powerful. And what I always say is the more confident, the more calm you are, the more opportunities that you will get. And my tone is really important. And you have to practice like you can do it like I am right now. I'm video recording. I can hear my tone. I can see my body language. I know how I'm coming off. You have to look at yourself in the mirror, or you have to do it this way, because if you like look down in shame or you look too aggressive and you're posturing, no one's going to open up to you. And this is a really, really important piece of the puzzle. So I need you to look at yourself and I need you to role play this. You don't even need to do it with another person. Just do it in the mirror so that you can start to feel really confident with the way that you communicate. Now, all of these examples, what I want to remind you is that none of them do these things. They don't pitch, you're not making assumptions, and they don't corner people. It creates open space, and through open space, you can now determine if this could be a referral partner or a direct sale. All right, so step number 2 is to identify the lane that they're in. As they talk, your job is super simple. It's to figure out which lane they're in. Can they be a buyer right now? Can they be a future buyer? Can they be a connector to who you really need to speak to? Or can they be a direct referral partner? You never label this out loud because that would be so awkward. You just adjust how you lead the conversation. And this alone separates all the amateur communicators from the true experts. And because you're listening to Revenue Rascals, I know that you want to be an expert in this. Now, one area that I want to talk about here is the current buyer and the future buyer, and then also connector referral partner. So first of all, what I mean by current buyer is that they are in need of what you have immediately, and you've had the opportunity to discuss it. It's a really easy transition. That's a current buyer. A future buyer is perhaps intuitively you know they're going to need you in the future, but they're not quite ready. They're not quite there yet. So instead of you losing the opportunity by pushing the sale, you'll find a way to nurture that relationship and continue it until they are ready. You will use a permissive-based strategy at that point to schedule the next conversation. This is really mission critical. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say that you help first-time managers develop leadership skills. Okay. And you're talking with someone and they are sharing that they're up for a promotion. They're nervous about it, but also excited. They feel like they have it in the bag, but it's going to happen, not for another handful of months. The mistake you could make is by saying, hey, you should start working with me right now. So you're totally prepared for this promotion. You don't want to be caught off guard on day one. That's manipulative, it's inappropriate, and it's inaccurate. What that person needs to focus on first is getting the promotion. So what you're doing is making what you think more important that's truly needed, and that breaks the relationship and creates friction. So the more appropriate way is to say, wow, like that is so exciting for you that you're that close to your promotion. Like what do you feel like you're going to need on day one when you get the promotion? Because you're assuming they're going to get it. Then they're going to share, well, I've never managed people. I don't know how not to be a doer and how to manage people. Then you can say, yeah, most people who are in their first management position, that would be an absolute roadblock. I've seen it time and time again. Can I ask you, would it be appropriate for me to follow up in a couple of months? Like based on the date of your promotion? And if you still feel that way, we could talk about how I can support you in learning those skills. ? Yeah, you're going to get a yes every single time, right? And you know what you could even do if you happen to be great at something else that's in parallel to what they need, you could say, by the way, I have a guide on interviewing for promotions and sharing what's great about your skills as a potential leader. Would you like that? Is that helpful? ? Yes, of course. And I do this all the time with my podcast. I give freely on here. If you study my podcast, you will be the best communicator you absolutely can be, and you will be able to build a revenue engine for your business. Period. Hard stop. So when I meet people, I use this podcast and all of these episodes to nurture that relationship, to also give them what they need at the moment and not always gatekeep it. If you always gatekeep, it's hard to do exactly what I'm sharing right now of turning those friendly relationships into revenue. Now, the next thing is the difference between a connector and a referral partner. Okay. So a connector is someone who is like, hey, you want to get in the room with X, Y, and Z? I can get you there. No problemo. I'll just make an introduction. So they're not really sending you deals like a true referral partner would be, right? They're just connecting you to the right people in the room. And that's where that relationship ends. It's really, really a critical relationship to have though. So, keep those people close to your chest. Now, the next one is the direct referral partner. So as a fractional chief revenue officer, I tend to partner up with other fractionals. So operate, finance, marketing, sales, all of these different areas that are really, really important for me to be able to continue gain business for my business. Okay. That's the difference of a referral partner. And like I said before, you don't label this outside. You just navigate the conversation because you are studying on how to be the best communicator possible. Now, step 3 is to lock in the micro commitment. I talk about micro commitments all of the time because if you approach every conversation with, I'm going to close right now, closing, always going for that, you miss a lot of the stages of sales. And the stages of sales can be navigated through micro commitments. And this is where most people absolutely fall apart. And a great conversation that goes nowhere is just what I like to refer to as emotional cardio. And that gets pretty exhausting really quickly. So for example, if someone is a future buyer, you can anchor relevance without urgency. I gave an example earlier. Here's another one. This feels like something that would be helpful down the line. Would it make sense for me to check back in around May? You name the timing, you own the follow-up. If someone is a connector, clarity creates action. If you were going to introduce me to one person this quarter, who comes to mind? Then you support the action. Give them a one-liner or draft the intro. If you don't give them tools, there will be no momentum. And if someone is a referral partner, you remove the randomness. Do you want me to make this easy and consistent instead of hit or miss? Perhaps you have a way to support your referral partners so that you're always top of mind and they know what to share. My very first group coaching program that I did, oh my gosh, I think it's like almost 8 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. I'm like, I need to count the years. I promoted the free event that did the enrollments through all of my referral partners or my affiliates. So if you're super specific what you want people to do, they're more likely to help you. And then after, you need to agree on who to listen for, how intros happen, and when you'll reconnect. So if you can create even like a one-pager or an organized email, it really, really helps. Putting in the structure actually does not damage the relationships. It protects it and it produces the results. All right, Rascals, let me ask you this. How much money have you wasted replacing shoes, sneakers, or even bags that could have lasted way longer if only you'd been taken better care of them? I know for me, running from meetings to kids' activities, life gets messy fast. And that's why I always have Jason Mark Quick Wipes on hand. Jason Mark is trusted care to help you get the most out of what you wear. They're not just about cleaning. They're about protecting what you love while protecting the planet. Their wipes are now 100% plant-based and plastic-free, made from renewable lyocell fibers. They're individually wrapped so you can toss them in your bag, your car, or like me, your kids' backpacks. And it's not just convenience. Jason Mark is part of the worldwide B Corp movement, meeting the highest standards for social and environmental impact. They're EPA Safer Choice certified, so you know the formulas are safe for your family. And their products are USDA, bio-based, and certified biodegradable. That means no harmful junk like PFAS or VOCs. Just high-performance care that keeps your stuff looking fresh while doing right by the planet. Personally, as a busy mom and entrepreneur, Quick Wipes are my favorite. They've saved my sneakers from coffee spills, playground dust, you name it. One wipe and I'm ready to walk into my next meeting looking sharp. So here's the deal. Go to jasonmark.com and use promo code RevenueRascals at checkout for 25% off your order. One time per customer. Again, that's jasonmark.com, code RevenueRascals. And remember, this podcast is free thanks to sponsors like Jason Mark. I'm ungating sales strategies people pay me six figures for. So go support them, grab your Quick Wipes or your favorite product, and keep your kicks looking fresh. You're in the coaching corner where we stop talking and start taking action. Alrighty, we got some great questions. And as I mentioned, I get asked about this constantly. So this was a really easy one for me to pull some coaching questions on. So here we go. Question number 1. What if I don't know which lane they're in yet? Well, that is fine. You don't need absolute certainty at all time. You just need direction. So use a soft micro commitment, a follow-up question, a resource, or a future check-in. It's okay to keep it a little bit vague in the beginning. I just want you to focus on what is my next step with this person? What seems appropriate for them to commit to, and leverage those micro commitments until you do have the clarity. And I will also say the more you do this, the faster you can just read in between the lines, you recognize patterns, and you're able to do this. All right. So question number 2 is, how do I avoid feeling awkward? Like all new things that you're going to learn is going to feel awkward. I'm going to tell you a story. When I started lifting heavy weights in the gym about a year ago from now, I could not figure out so much of the equipment. It was so embarrassing. I had spent so many years in group classes where the equipment was already set up. You could see people using it. It's like that part of my brain forgot how to use gym equipment from like the decade before that I used to do it all the time. And it was embarrassing because I work out really early in the morning, like around 5:30 in the morning. And people who go to the gym at 5:30 in the morning, they know what they're doing. They're the gym rats. They're committed. They're disciplined. They know what they're doing. They're in incredible shape. They're not there to chit chat. They're rocking and rolling. So do you know how awkward I felt trying to figure out the equipment without people seeing me try to figure it out? But I just had to push through it. And you know what? A lot of people actually ended up helping me, and I pushed through the awkwardness. And, you know, now that I see other people struggle when I can tell they're new, I'm like, oh, I'll help you. And so it's just part of learning a new skill is that you are going to feel awkward sometimes. But the good news is that over time you stop. So you just have to know that the future is no more awkwardness, but you have to work through it and push through it. And like I'd mentioned before, if you look in the mirror or on video and you practice, nobody's going to say anything back to you. You can tell if you like it or not, but you have to put in the reps, friends. Okay. And the awkwardness, it comes from avoiding, not from exercising. Okay. So I want you to exercise it. And just remember that clear is better than clever and calm is better than polished. Question number 3. What if they don't follow through? Ooh, ouch. Yeah, that can sting a little bit. Well, the thing is, if they don't follow through, 99% of the time, they didn't follow through because, and if you take extreme ownership on this, I am willing to bet something was missed. Did they not know how to do it? Did they pretend they were going to help you when they didn't really understand how to help you? Typically, if somebody commits to something and doesn't follow through, there's confusion. So I want you to take some extreme ownership of the situation and do what you can to get back on track through another micro commitment. And you might have to step down the micro commitment. So instead of getting the key introduction that you needed for your business, well, maybe you're going to need to do another coffee or a lunch or, send them something valuable their way to repair whatever confusion you had caused. Okay. It's just part of the game and you will figure it out and you'll learn something valuable each time and you're collecting information so you can control future outcomes. Let's bring it home. Rascal wrap up time. Key takeaways and a resource to keep you winning. So here's the rule that really changes everything. Never end a strong conversation without a micro commitment. The commitment can be a follow-up date, an intro, a resource, a question they can think on, or of course, the best case scenario is a sales call, right? Small commitments do compound into real results. You don't need to sell harder. You need to lead more clearly. Friendly, like I had mentioned, creates the access. Intentional communication creates the opportunity, and micro commitments create the outcomes that you want. Now, I have dropped this entire playbook into the Revenue Rascals resource vault, and you can use it in real conversations right now. So please go grab it at revenuerascals.com. Enjoy my gift to you, which is one place for everything that you need to be the best communicator you possibly can be, sell more, and build a business of your dreams. Thanks for listening to Revenue Rascals, where we turn bold ideas into predictable revenue and prove that breaking the rules can still build empires. If you love what you heard, do me a favor. Tap the links in the show notes to support our sponsors. They're the ones keeping this show free so I can keep ungating the six-figure strategies that help you scale faster, lead smarter, and take more freedom home with you. And hey, if you think you'd make an incredible guest or know someone who's built something worth studying, email me at hello@michelleterpster.com. And until next time, stay sharp, stay bold, and stay just a little bit rascal.